Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby Trans-Tasman Round 3 preview. Hi, I'm Paul and I'll be your host today. Look, if you're watching from Cornflake's channel, don't adjust your sets. Yes, he is being part of the family of the New Zealand Sport Radio, and so we are now broadcasting this on his channel, on Cornflake's channel on YouTube. You can also be watching this on YouTube on the New Zealand Sports Radio, plus our Facebook page, New Zealand Sports Radio, and also on Twitter at Driving Mall. And also, of course, it goes out as a podcast as well. So lots of places for you to either watch or listen on the go if you want to. 5 games again this weekend. And as I think we've all said, or we'll all know, is that we've had a clean sweep so far by the Kiwi sides, 10-0. What's going to happen this weekend with the game? Some interesting matchups, and let's go through those then. We kick off on Friday evening with the Hurricanes against the Western Force. Western Force probably the best team performance-wise, definitely against compared to expectations so far in this competition. Only 1 point loss to the Chiefs and a 10-point loss to the Highlanders. Not too bad. Waratahs 2 big wins, or 2 big scoring wins at least. That one against the Waratahs, what was it, 64 to 80 to 48, and then that 35-13 win over the Rebels last weekend. But those, I think one of the things to take into account there is that those 2 wins have been against the bottom 2 Super Rugby AU sides, sort of working their way up the ladder. Waratahs, Rebels, and now the Western Force. The other thing to remember about the Western Force is this is their first game away. Previous to this, those other 2 good performances have been at home in front of their home fans. So how will they go? Well, let's just have a quick look at the lineups that we've got here, because we do have the return of Ardie Savea for the Hurricanes on the bench. A quick rundown of that team. Amua, Lomax, the front row. Walker, Laurie and Scrafton in the engine room. Princep is captaining from blindside with Karifi and Evans rounding up that back row. Campbell and Ledger will be leading the team around the park, with Lamapi and Manga Jensen in the centres, and the back 3 of Rayasi, Hooson and Geordie Barrett. Off the bench, Riccatelli, Rakti, Stones and Fidel for the front row. James Blackwell in the engine room. Ardie Savea, as we've mentioned there earlier. Roygard, Proctor and Arso are the backs replacements. So, look, a team there, a couple of little changes. No Julian Sevilla this weekend, for example, so they are rotating through their players. Great to have Ardie back from that knee injury that he sustained earlier in the season. Interesting, both him and Quintapaya. Quintapaya, I think, was playing club rugby last weekend, had injured the same weekend, sort of having a similar sort of return schedule for the 2 of them, which is great to see. For the Western Force, then, it's a milestone for Pulu. This is his 50th Super Rugby game in that one, and him coming back from suspension on the wing, which will let Richard Kahui move to the centres. But quickly running through their team: Robertson, Reddy, Medrano on the front row there, with Thrush and Tamani in the engine room. Good to see Thrush back as well. Lee Warner, Kokotia, and Anstey. The Lucy's, Cabelli, Miotti, that Argentinian combination there running things. Goodwin will captain from 12 with Richard Kahui at 13, and a back 3 then Oliver Fair, Pulu and Rob Kearney. Kotu'u, Wagner, Holmes, the front row replacements from Macaulay, Stander there, the other forward replacements. Pryor, McGregor and Kirindrani are the back. So look, plenty of experience, but we've known that all along there. I don't think we'll be seeing a blowout in the same way we've seen with the Hurricanes over the last couple of weeks, but I still think the Hurricanes at home will be too strong for the Force, and I'm going for the Hurricanes by 7 in this one. But I say you've got to give a hat tip to the Canes. They have to the Force. They have been the best performing Super Rugby AU team so far in this comp. But now their tour comes along, and that's going to be a tough one for them. Let's be honest. Then on to Saturday, and we have the afternoon game, 5 o'clock New Zealand time, with the Waratahs hosting the Crusaders. Waratahs, bottom of Super Rugby AU, lost their first game by 16 points, lost last weekend by 27 points. Compared to the Crusaders, who've won by 2 against the Brumbies, but then by 35 against the Reds. And I got to say, this is only going to go one way, no matter who is in the lineups. But let's have a look at those anyway. From the Waratahs, Bell, Parecki, Johnson, Holmes in the front row, Williams and Wetton in that engine room. Swinton, Dempsey and Harris are the loose trio, with Jake Gordon the captain. He is so key to them at 9 and how they play. Donaldson again starting at 10. The centres then Fichetti and Paresi in there, which is for the centres, which is good to see. And then a back three of Newsom, Maddox, and Will Harrison. Yeah, Will Harrison, coming back from injury, has come back in at the 15 jersey, not at the 10 jersey. Interesting to see. Off the bench then, Cotton, Faulkner, Breen, your front row, Caird, and Tizzano. And then you've got Grant, Moriora, and Mark Noah Quinatasi there, rounding out those replacements. Look, again, we've seen improved performances from this team in the last couple of games, but that's from a very low level. Let's be honest. This team doesn't have the experience at this level, doesn't have the cohesion that they're going to see from the Crusaders, especially with Scott Barrett returning for them and as captain. They're going to have Bauer, Taylor, Alalatoa are the front row, with Stranger and Barrett there, Scott Barrett as the captaining in that engine room. Douglas, Havili, and Tui, and Grace, the loose trio. Drummond and Moanga running things. McLeod and Enor in the centres there. So look, David Havili given the weekend off. Faranuku, Reese, and Will Jordan as a back three. On the bench then, we've got a debutant at 16. Nathan Vella could be making his Chiefs debut this off the bench, with Williams and Jaeger the prop replacements. Samuel Whitelock, Mitch Dunshay there. So two locks really, rather than a loose forward replacement on the bench, could be an issue for them. But I don't think in this game. Hall, Burke, and Mattielli are the backs replacements. So look, you've got to say with the Crusaders, after those sort of things, those sort of results, you've got to be saying backing the Crusaders by about 20 is my guess in this one. Look, it was always going to be a tough tournament for the Waratahs. I don't think any of us were expecting them to be upsetting any of the New Zealand teams, so not really a surprise there. We then head across to New Zealand to Eden Park for the Blues versus the Brumbies. Interesting one here. The Blues going off the back of 2 wins. The Brumbies obviously have lost their opening 2. Went very close against the Crusaders, but then didn't turn up really with the intensity required against the Chiefs. And we saw the interview with Dan McKellar. You can check that out on the New Zealand Sports Facebook page post-game, talking about that the Chiefs were the better team on the night, but they didn't think they were that far off them. The Blues, their wins have come over the Rebels and the Waratahs. So they've beaten the 2 bottom teams so far by 47 points and 27 points. This is going to be a much different proposition for them. Let's be honest here. I know there's a lot of my Blues friends, Blues fans, friends are concerned by this one. It's the kind of game that the Blues tend to trip up on. But we'll quickly have a look at some. Oops, I've not got the lineup in front of me, I'm afraid. Sorry, but let me. I'm trying to find it because it's not the easiest website to navigate, folks. I'm afraid over there. I thought I had it up, but I don't have their team list up. So I'll really just while I'm bringing that up, I'll run through the Brumbies one. We got Seo, McKerney, Alalatoa, the captaining there for the Brumbies. Swain and Frost in the engine room with Valentini, Cusack, and Stowers as a back three. That's going to be a key place for them to combat the Blues, because let's be honest, that loose trio from the Blues does a lot of the carrying for this team, and so it's going to be important that those guys in particular stand up for the Brumbies. Nick White and Lolaseo will be running things, with Simone and Ikitau are in the centres there. So a combination that has worked really well this year, and some real danger in that back three with Wright, Kata, and Banks. Remember that score, that try by Banks against the Crusaders was an absolute cracker. So Yes, that's a decent back three there that could cause the Blues some real problems. Off the bench then, Fainga, Lloyd, Kautai, Hooper, Tom Hooper, that is, Rima, Longerin, Coenzi, and Mac Hansen there. And I think when we look at the Blues bench, that is going to be an area that's going to be the big difference between these two sides. When you look at the starting lineup for the Blues, then is Tuanakafi, Eklund, and Retina, with Cowley, Tuati, and Goodhue in the engine room. Robinson will captain from blindside. Papi Leahy at 7 and Satutu at 8. We got Finlay Christie and Black are the decision makers, with Fayani and Rico Iwani in the centres, with Lamb, Heem, and Sullivan are your back three. But it's when you look at that bench, sure, we got Vikiner, Hodgman, all black, Lualala, all black, Patrick Tuipulotu, all black, Kiriwani, all black, coming off the bench, Ruru, Plummer, and Mark Talia. So look, some real quality coming off that bench there for the Blues, and it's going to be a big task for the Brumbies in that last 20 minutes. You've got to think. So whilst I think the Brumbies will be a lot closer, give the Blues a much closer, a much better battle than we've seen the Blues have so far. And I do expect the Brumbies to bounce back from that game against the Chiefs. I'm still going to back the Blues, but only by 3 in this one up at Eden Park. After that, we head over to Queensland for the Reds versus the Chiefs in this one. And whilst I've seen the Chiefs lineup, unfortunately, it's embargoed, sorry, folks, until 6 p.m. So sorry, it's 18 minutes away before I can actually announce or say anything about the Chiefs lineup. But we've got the Reds lineups. Let's have a look at that one first. Fosakai, Panga Amosa, and Tupu across the front row, with Smith and Salakai Lotto in the engine room. Scott Young, Wright, and Wilson, that good loose trio, with Liam Wright there co-captaining. We then got McDermott and O'Connor, who will also co-captain. James O'Connor really needs to step up in this game. He kind of went missing last weekend. You then got Henry and Pasami in the 12-13 combo. Isaac Henry, that's his starting debut for Super Rugby and also Queensland there. So it's going to be an interesting one for him in that seat, in that 12 jersey. Dongunu, Vunivalu, and Hegarty are the back three there. Interesting that Dungunu's getting a start, has been coming off the bench a lot this season. Nasir, Zander, Nongoro are the front row replacements. Uru and McWright, the other forwards replacements. Then you got Thomas, Hamish Stewart, and Droassi are the backs replacements for the Reds. So yeah, interesting. Again, that new face at 12, and Dongunu getting a rare start as well in this one. So the Reds have definitely been rotating their team for Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. For the Chiefs, look, they are a bonus point behind the top two teams. They'll be taking this game very seriously, and I think they'll be putting out pretty much a first choice lineup for this one. So I don't expect to see any surprises for the Chiefs lineup on this one. I can't comment about the actual names that are in it, but that was my expectations coming in to this weekend before I saw the list that was chosen. For the Reds now, obviously they had that bad loss against the Highlanders, which was a big hangover from the final week this weekend. Lost to the Crusaders by 35. The Chiefs, on the other hand, have had a couple of good results. It was tight against the Western Force, lost by 1. And then they had a big win over the Brumbies, 21 points last weekend in that one. Really controlling the game very well was what I saw in that one. So I think, look, picking against the New Zealand teams has been a bad choice, this one. I'm going to the Chiefs by 3, but I think we're going to see the Reds growing into this competition now. After that hangover, I think they'll hopefully manage to refocus now on this competition after reaching their goal they've been aiming for the past sort of 4 years, which is why I think we lost that focus in that first round of the Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. The Sunday game then was supposed to be in Queenstown with a 2:35 kickoff, but it had to be moved to Sydney. This is because of the travel restrictions around the outbreak the COVID outbreak in Melbourne, and the suspension of that travel bubble with Melbourne. The Rebels managed to get out on Wednesday, so they are now in Sydney, and it will all be COVID tested before the weekend's games. But that game's going to be in Sydney now at 5 p.m. New Zealand time. There for that one, with the Highlanders taking on the Rebels. You've got to say the Rebels have lost their opening two games pretty badly. 47 points to the Blues, 22 to the Hurricanes. The Highlanders, good wins over the Reds, and then a decent win over the Force as well last weekend. I don't think there'll be any difference with this one. I think we're going to see a big win by the Highlanders, and Highlanders by 10. Again, look, the travel disruption and preparation disruption might be a bit of a thing for both teams. We'll see who manages to cope with that the better. But yes, after last weekend, me choosing an upset there with the Force over the Highlanders, I'm not doing that again this weekend. I'm going for 5 New Zealand teams, but I say 2 close ones that I expect to see are the Blues versus the Brumbies, and also the Reds versus the Chiefs. I think there should be 2 cracking games this weekend, both of them on Saturday evening, so 7 o'clock and a 9:45 kickoffs New Zealand time. Let me know your thoughts in the chat. Obviously, I will be live during the games on @DrivingMaul on Twitter. We'll also do post-match reactions to a couple of the games. Definitely the Hurricanes versus the Force, and the Blues versus the Brumbies. Possibly the Waratahs Crusaders, and possibly the Reds Chiefs. Possibly the Reds Chiefs. We'll see. Probably not the Reds Chiefs. We'll see. That'll be a bit late at night, unless it's an absolute cracking game. But do join us and enjoy the Super Rugby this weekend.